So once again, whether we were expecting it or not, the song is exactly what I'm talking about. So here I have to just say thank you, Libby, for explaining kind of one of the ways we could think of visioning, which is the spiritual practice we're talking about this month. Imagine that you sit down and write yourself a letter from your understanding of God, saying all of the great things that you want to hear from a divine being. That you are loved, that you are powerful, that you are good. And the thing is, when we say we're making believe, it came from the capital Y-U, that imaginary friend in our head is actually not as fake as you might think it is. That divine being that lives in you will use your imagination, will use whatever route you open up for it to speak its truth to you. So as we said last week, visioning is an active meditation practice in which we open ourselves up. First and foremost, we open ourselves up to an awareness of the presence of the divine within us, all around us, and every single cell, as the energy of every single electron that is our physical being. And when we do that, we allow ourselves to listen attentively, as if something was going to whisper in your ear the most important information you will ever get. And that is what we're listening for, watching for, whatever sense it comes to you through, that is what we're listening to in the vision. And so again, we ask, what is the vision? And we listen. We watch for the images or the sounds or the songs, whatever it is, however the information comes to you with a simple knowing. And then we ask, what must I embrace or become? What is it that I've been trying to pretend I am not? What quality that I consider divine do I need to admit I know about in myself? And then last week we talked about what must I release in order to live this vision? What do I have to let go of? Is it the idea that I am a victim? Is it the idea that I am powerless? Is it the idea, the habit of not accepting compliments or not admitting to how good life can be? This week, we're talking about what must we accept? In order to live the vision that's been revealed to us, what new habit of thinking or feeling or way of being in the world, what must we accept as the actual truth that takes the place of either the old or the bad information that no longer serves us? And what do we have to kind of just allow in? Now, the name of this talk is With Open Arms, because as you can see, if I'm open, then there's room for things to come in. If I'm accepting like this, or if I've got my hands raised in a fist, there's no place to put any more good here, is there? And that's why we release first. That's why we let go of that which is no longer serving us, whether it's an idea or a habit or the way a relationship has worked, in order to allow in greater good. So let me give you a couple examples of this. Edwina Gaines, who is one of the, Edwene Gaines, who is one of the great mavens of science of mind and the teachings of abundance, says that her definition of real prosperity is a vitally alive physical body to provide a comfortable worldly home for the spiritual being I am, relationships that are satisfying, nurturing, honest, and work all the time, work that I love so much it's not work, it's play, and all the money I can spend. So the first part of that, a vitally alive physical body to provide a comfortable worldly home for the spiritual being I am. I have to release the idea that I am weak or sick, or that maybe I've inherited a particular disease, or that in order to get love, I have to be sick. How many of us faked sick as kids in order to be able to stay home and rest? Don't tell me you don't know about spraying your face with the water and putting the thermometer up to a light bulb and accidentally giving yourself a fever of 110. What do we have to release? Well, if we have to release the idea that in order to rest, I have to be sick, then what I must accept is that self-care, resting when I'm tired before I get sick, that's a spiritual practice. It's as spiritual as sitting down to meditate and oming all over the place. What's the next one? Relationships that are satisfying, nurturing, honest, and work all the time. Okay. If I have to release the idea that relationship has to be struggle or, marriage is hard work, well, yes, maybe it is. But it's also a great deal of joy from what I'm told by people who stay that way because they want to. Stay in the marriage, I mean, not just because, divorce is against your religion and murder is illegal. So relationships that are satisfying, I have to be willing to be satisfied. I have to accept that this is good and I'm allowed to just stop working. I'm allowed to just allow this to be and be grateful for it as it is. It's nurturing. I have to not be the one doing all the nurturing. How many of us have been taught that if I'm not doing for the people in my life, then I have no reason to be in their lives. They won't like me if it's just me and I'm not doing anything for them. Honest. Oh, how many of us tell little white lies in our relationships? Or tell ourselves they're little white lies. I'm being kind by not telling you my truth. I'd suggest to you that you might be being nice as culturally defined, but you're not being kind because you're not being real and the other person is in a relationship with you. And if you're not showing up to that relationship, you're kind of leaving them hanging. Now, I know this one. I know this one inside and out because I tend to be nice rather than kind sometimes. And it has been a learning experience for me in my visioning to embrace the idea that I must accept that being kind is better than being nice. I must tell people the truth about where I am and who I am so that they can be in an honest relationship with the real me. Oddly enough, it tends to work out better because I can't fake it for as long as I sometimes think I'm supposed to. I can't keep a straight face while trying to be, I'm so spiritual. I'm the minister. I never swear. I never have bad hair days. Honestly, guys, I have bad hair days. I swear when it's appropriate. And I believe that being real, being authentic, being honest is the most spiritual thing we can do. If our relationships work all the time, does that mean we have to stop playing in the drama? Do we have to let go of the drama of, oh my God, he might leave me or she might leave me, and so this is how we behave? Or if I want more attention from my partner, do I threaten to leave? Do I start withholding affection? If it works all the time, then we get to feel loved all the time. And whether that is being demonstrated by the person we consider our partner, whether it's a friend or a family member, maybe the only one we can count on for having their full attention all the time is the divine. And so we take care of ourselves in that way. We accept that it is our job to receive love, not their job to make sure we feel it. Ugh, that's a tough one, huh? I remember being so horrified and insulted the first time a therapist told me it wasn't my boyfriend's job to make me happy. Fired her on the spot. Managed to do it silently so that I didn't have to rehire her and apologize. Work that I love so much, it's not work, it's play. I don't know about you, but I was raised with the idea that if I'm not sweating it or efforting in some level, it's not real work and I shouldn't get paid for it. Or I haven't earned good if it isn't at least a little bit painful. No pain, no gain. What if we had to let go, release that, and accept the idea that we know that that good is ours when it flows to us naturally, that we're just having fun with the people we love, and that is also known as going to the office and creating a world that works for everyone. All the money I can spend. Now, this one I've had challenges with because, honey, I can spend some money. I could spend some money, except that I was taught not to be greedy. I was taught to think of other people first. And while that is a great thing, I generally only spend all the money I can at Christmas, which is why I love it. I have no problem buying tons of gifts for other people, but clothes that actually fit were a struggle for me for a long time. Maybe there's something that you've always wanted, and yes, the money is in the budget if you would allocate it, but somehow it's hard for you to accept that good for yourself. Don't be the person who gets to the end of their life and has never had fun. Teach the next generation how to have fun by being like me, the wild and crazy auntie that just goes out and does whatever the heck she wants after I've taken care of basic responsibilities. There is a balance to be found between that idea that greed is something that we're not allowed to do, or that we don't have to think of anybody else, and that long-suffering martyr. There's a spot in between the two, between the greedy person and the martyr. There's space for all of us in between the two. And so as we let go of the idea that we cannot have good, or that we have to struggle and strive for things, as we allow good to flow to and through us, it is that acceptance that has to be a conscious step within our spiritual practice that allows Spirit to say yes to whatever we've said yes to. Remember, Spirit won't do for us what it can't do through us. That is not how it works. Spirit has to work through us to create the good in the world. And so if we're saying no to good, then there's no room for that to come into our lives. A gentleman by the name of Reverend Ike, used to say, you can't help the poor if you're one of them. Or words to that effect. Now, poor, in this case, I would invite you to redefine. Poor would be, I think that there's not enough good in the world, and so I better hang on to what I've got. It's not about the amount of money. It's not about your job. It's not about any of that. It's about the mindset of being rich, which says the divine within me has created all sorts of different ways for good to flow. And so I'm going to allow that good to flow to me, fill up with it, and let the overflow go into the world again. And this is how I am rich. I am rich in friends. I am rich in my feeling supported at work and feeling like I add to the greater good because of the work I do and the way I spend my days. I am rich in terms of finances. There's plenty to go around. There's all sorts of good. So if we let go of the poor mentality that says there's not enough, and we take on a rich mentality, then it becomes much easier to support and love other people into their own magnificence. Now, sometimes it takes really digging out all of that baked on crud in our belief system. So think for a moment, what does the word success mean to you? I know as a minister, I've had to sit with the idea of, is success a certain number of people physically present in the building on Sunday? That was one of the first things I was told to be careful of, because that's really a measure of my ego as a minister, not the success of the ministry. Let me say that again. Our success as a community is not about what ministers would call butts and seats on Sunday. It's about lives touched in whatever format that works. It's about how many people walk out of Sunday service or Wednesday service or Tuesday morning service or whatever it is you're doing, walk out of the classroom, walk out of a Zoom call feeling more like the true magnificent soul that they are than when they walked in the door, whether it was physically or digitally. That, to me, is success. That's a little harder to measure, but it's a more honest way of looking at success for me. Were you taught that in order to be successful, you had to go to college? Were you taught that in order to be considered successful, you had to have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of, a spouse that looked or acted a certain way? Were you taught, maybe, that success has to do with being the right weight or looking good in pictures? What were you taught success was? What if it's something else? Another vision that we talk about a lot is what we call the global vision. And the story of the global vision, which I'll quote in a moment, is that we, back before CSL was the name of our Centers for Spiritual Living, back in the days of the United Church of Religious Science, very old name, some of you won't even remember it, we were not doing well. We were not doing well at all. And there was a study done, and we were told that we were at a stage of growth called bureaucratic death. We had all sorts of policies and procedures. We had all sorts of rules and regulations. What we didn't have was a lot of life. And so a group of our leaders locked themselves into a hotel room and sat down and did this visioning process with Reverend Dr. Michael Beckwith. And what they figured out was it didn't matter what rules and regulations they had. They wanted to there was a vision coming through them of the world they wanted to live in. And one of the quotations from that was, we see a world in which every person lives in alignment with his or her highest spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action. That's just a part of the global vision. The vision is usually summarized as, we live in a world that works for everyone, or a world that works for all and all creatures. Now, I have a video that I had intended to use last week that I had asked to be put off till this week, but I didn't ask Andy if we had it. And I'm looking at his face right now, so either shake your head or either nod or shake your head as to whether we have that. Oh, we do have that. So I'm going to ask Andy to play that for me right now, because he is the man.
I can imagine.
我可以想象
Je peux imaginer un monde.
I can imagine.
Puedo imaginarme.
Ik zie een wereld voor me.
Где мы живем, как одна глобальная семья.
Ambapo tunaishi kama familia moja ya ulimwengu.
Donde hay paz, armonía y justicia.
Я бачу світ, де ми живемо відповідно до духовної правди.
I see a world where we live according to spiritual truth.
Where we value nature and creativity.
Donde sentimos el llamado hacia la acción social consciente.
Wo wir zu bewusstem sozialem Handeln aufgerufen sind.
Donde somos llamados conscientemente a la acción social.
Waarin wij allemaal geroepen worden tot sociale bewuste actie.
Де ми покликані до свідомої соціальної дії.
Ambapo tunaitwa kuchukua hatua za kijamii.
Donde la vida es honorada como la divinidad.
Where humanity awakens to its spiritual magnificence.
Où l'humanité s'éveille à sa magnificence spirituelle.
在这个世界，你爱我，我善待你。
Where people have enough food.
Où les gens ont suffisamment à manger.
Wo die Menschen genug zum Essen haben.
Donde la gente tiene suficientes alimentos.
and I am not the only one.
Na sio mimi tu.
Und ich bin nicht die Einzige.
And I am not the only one.
And I'm not the only one.
All right. So that is one of the visions one of the ways of expressing the global vision. And when I first saw it, it occurred to me that I had never put music to it. I had never imagined it in so many different languages with so many different looking people and children and adults and people of different ages and colors and races and creeds. So what I am willing to accept is a larger vision. How do we get there? First of all, with visioning, often one of the mistakes we make is that we think we walk out the door of any visioning session with a to-do list. And that to-do list looks like get more children in the children's program, or get more people of color into the Sunday sanctuary. It's not that kind of a to-do list. The to-do list is, what do I take into my daily prayer practice about what I have to release, what I have to accept, and what I must become in order to live the vision. All of our work starts on the inside and then works its way out. That vision that you just got to watch, that poetry in motion that Reverend Raymond Anderson did as he signed, all of that is the outpicturing, and that's the last piece. And we keep an eye on that because it makes the path easier. But Ernest Holmes taught us, according to the textbook, it says we should take the highest thought we have and attempt to enlarge on this consciousness until it embraces a more vital concept of reality. And I'll just say that's capital R reality, by the way. We should take the highest thought we have and attempt to enlarge on this consciousness until it embraces a more vital concept of reality. Consciousness in this sense means an inner embodiment of ideas. So first, we take in the idea that the vision is bigger, that our souls are calling into our great magnificence, and that is more magnificent than we ever thought we could be. And more magnificent, more disciplined, more loving, more peaceful than we had previously imagined. One of the things we were taught in ministerial school is that if the vision isn't so big it's a little bit scary, then you haven't caught the full vision. We always knew when someone had caught their real vision in class because the tears started just pouring down. Because it's so big and so beautiful and so magnificent that the emotion wells up and you get hungry to go live in it. There's so much good available to you because you are the divine being, and you are not the only one that wants to live in a world that works for everyone. Our leadership called it forth about almost 20 years ago now. The global vision, or what used to be called the global heart vision, is not new. Heck, we didn't even come up with it. It's something that has been in the one mind for a long time, and every so often we get reminded of it. So are we willing to be the time and place, that spot where God has enough room to come through, where spirit, the universal Christ and Buddha consciousness has enough space within our hearts to come through into the world to show our spiritual magnificence and to reflect such a grand light of truth that people can no longer hold on to the ideas of less than or not good enough or don't deserve, those old false ideas that we're trying to release right now. Is it possible that there is more good for you than you were ever even allowed to imagine that you deserve, or that actually is yours by divine right? I ask you to sit with that. I ask you to be willing to entertain Just imagine, entertain the wild and crazy thought that maybe you can live without the negative drama. Maybe life could come to you on a silver platter without struggle. And that is not heresy. That is not laziness. That is allowing spirit to be in charge. And we just take our rightful place in this beautiful, wonderful heaven on earth without having to be the one who makes it so. Often as a kid, I was taught that, you have to get up to the pearly gates and get through them. That doesn't mean you need to bring a lockpick with you, guys. And if heaven is paved in gold, that doesn't mean you have to know how to make a road. It means you get there and it's already done by the one mind. It is your idea to walk through the open gates. It is your job, it is your responsibility to take responsibility for walking on those roads of gold, through the heavenly gates, through whatever metaphor works for you. And in this moment, what I know is that we make that happen. We allow that to happen by surrendering to our own cosmic, magnificent selves. And we do that through one of the other spiritual practices we call prayer. And so I'll go to prayer now. And I ask you just to let it rain down into you. Let it soak into you without any effort, and let the words that belong to you, whatever words that come out of my mouth, those that fit you, allow them entry into your heart. Accept them and embrace them with open arms. Because in this moment, in this very moment, this spot in time and space through which the eternal breathes and has entry into form, here and now, God is. Peace is. Love is. Prosperity is. And that is all there is. There is no second power. There is no thing that can get in God's way and stop it from being. There is no negation. There is only God. And if you don't like that word, add the extra O. There is only good, the spiritual truth of infinite light and love, of infinite intelligence. And in this very moment, in this very time and space, no matter who can hear me, the only truth that matters is that we are one in and of that infinite divine good. Our very heartbeats, the life in ourselves, it's all divine intelligence. And so I call forth on behalf of all of us, this world that works for everyone, what some people used to call heaven on earth, nirvana, emptiness, perfection, Eden, all the good that is, has ever been, or could ever be, right here, right now, that which is beyond human imagination. Right here, right now, I call it forth. I call it into form, that we may see what has always existed within our shared mind, within our shared consciousness. I call forth health and wholeness. I call forth prosperity. I call forth enough for everyone. Enough food, enough friends, enough love, enough joy, enough money, enough time and space. And I know that this global vision of our own spiritual magnificence is what we are awakening to right now, and that is the power inherent in this word, that we awaken to that which already is, that we remember, that we recognize that truth that we always knew, that has always been part of us, that we are magnificent spiritual beings, and that this is our true birthright. This is the truth of our DNA, spiritually and physically. And so I rest in that with a grateful heart, knowing that having let go of that which does not serve this highest truth, I now accept this great and grand light and life that is the truth of our being. I accept it for myself and everyone else with a grateful heart. with awe and with celebration. And I just let the law of cause and effect go to work automatically with a resounding yes. And so it's already done. And we joyfully and expectantly and patiently await the manifestation, knowing that there is nothing else that can happen. And together we affirm, and so it is.